Welcome back, everyone. It has been forever since we've talked about RPGs on here, but let's go ahead and get started on that again. So this one I'm going to go over a top 10 list of my favorite RPGs. I just kind of want to get it tossed out there first that for the most part I have only played RPGs on Nintendo systems and on PC. So the list will be a little limited. I'm sure yours will be completely different than mine. Also, there are a few generations like the DS and Game Boy Advance, GameCube, N64, like those ones. I haven't really played that many RPGs on those ones. So for the most part, this list is just going to be what my top 10 are so far, but there are a few honorable mentions I also want to talk about. So there are so many great series out there, and it's tough to narrow them all down because I played a bunch of Final Fantasy games, a bunch of like the Bravely series. So one of the honorable mentions I want to have on here is Golden Sun: The Lost Age. So this was the second game in the series to come out, and it continued directly off of the series of the first one, but followed around 4 different characters. And it's just the style, what they were able to do on the Game Boy Advance with this was just so awesome for the series. There was a DS one in the series, but it wasn't as good as this one or the first one. But in this game, you had these little, I don't know how it's pronounced, Jinny, I don't know if the D's silent or however it is, but you had these little critters, and they would help power up your character. Kind of like Espers from Final Fantasy VI. And it's just nice turn-based combat. Kind of had the same style as Chrono Trigger for doing the battles. Now, battling in this does look a lot like Chrono Trigger, and that's kind of one of the things that made it pretty cool. You could even use your Jinny to do special attacks there and everything. But overall, this is a great game, and I'd suggest if you have a chance, try it out. It's on the Nintendo Switch Online, so I definitely recommend it. But this is on an honorable mention on my list, so we will move on to the next one. And the next honorable mention may confuse some people why I'm putting as an honorable mention instead of in the top 10, but it's a game that came out originally on the Wii, and then they made a remake on the 3DS, and then also a remake on the Switch. Xenoblade Chronicles. Now there's so much to this game. There's just an insane amount of things that you can do in it. Spend a whole bunch of time, New Game Plus mode. It has like everything in it. The battle system is less turn-based. It's more of you have to actually like choose the moves, do actions when they're available, so it's not like this side goes, then this side goes. It is definitely the start of a great series of games. Now, the Xenoblade Chronicles series is one of the best series out there in my opinion, and I haven't played Xenogears or Xenosaga yet. I have recently gotten those, just haven't had time to play them. So I'll see how those ones are, because I know there are a couple things that are supposed to exist in all of them, but I will find that out when the time comes. Maybe make a video talking about it. But for a game like this being on the honorable mention list, then you definitely know the rest of them must be extremely great games. So starting with number 10 after the honorable mentions. So this is probably a weird one for you to see on someone's list of favorite RPGs, but I had a lot of fun as a kid playing Shadowrun on the Super Nintendo. I have the Genesis one now, and still need to finish making it through that game. But as far as the Super Nintendo one, like my brother and I would play it all the time. One of my friends and I, we like stayed up really late all the time playing it. I was one of those nerds when I was a teenager, and I did play the actual like book Shadowrun game. But the funny part about it is I didn't get into playing that until after playing the Super Nintendo Shadowrun game. So yeah, pretty much in this game you start as someone who they thought was dead, but he ends up not being, and you have to go through and learn skills, go into the Matrix before the Matrix was a thing. You even ask about different things, learn different words, so Really has all sorts of different types of things in it that you didn't really see that much back in this time. And even a little puppy right there. So this one pretty much hits number 10 on my list because some of it, nostalgia, got to have a lot of good memories with it, and it's just fun exploring in here. I mean, every place can be dangerous when you go exploring, and it's just, there can be surprises on every turn. It's just, overall, it's a pretty fun game. There's a lot of complication to it, so it's one that can take some learning, but overall, I have a lot of fun with this game. And number 9 on my list, the first open world console game that I'd ever played. This was actually the first Xenoblade game that I ever played also. You saw some of this one in the intro, but overall you have like characters in your group that can just go around kind of beat things up, or you have these giant skells that you can use for defeating these big monsters. By big monsters, I mean like even ones early on in the game, those are level 13, and you can see Elma down there by the foot of the skell where those monsters are just way bigger than her. Yeah, this game overall had a great story to it with like insane twists and everything, and gameplay was a lot of fun, has a lot of replay value, even had some online functionality that sadly is going to be shut off soon because of the Wii U stuff being shut off. So the open world in this is just huge. It's, from things I've seen online, it's like the time that Witcher 3 and I don't know, some of those other games came out on like the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. The open world in this game was larger than all those ones, and this was on the Wii U. So Monolith Soft just did a really awesome job at doing everything with this game. This is one that I'm hoping at some point they port over to the Switch, because it'd definitely be worth it, especially the online play on there. I'd recommend this game to anyone. And the music's kind of catchy too. Now number 8 on my list is a Switch exclusive, and it was just such a big change to this franchise that it's definitely in my top 10 list. It's Pokemon Legends Arceus. And with this game, what was cooler than actually being able to go into these giant areas and just like throw Pokeballs at Pokemon, be able to be attacked by them, dodge their attacks, and then even use your own Pokemon to weaken those ones so you could catch them easier. So it added the whole open world aspect to a Pokemon game. It's one that I kind of wish they did a little bit more with in the terms of like adding DLC or updates to it, because there's a lot of extra they could have done with this game. And this one's in the top 10 as opposed to the mainline Pokemon games, because this one I thought was like a revolutionary step in the Pokemon franchise. I mean, I'm always going to be a fan of like Pokemon Yellow and Pokemon X, but this one just took everything a step further. Plus it introduced some cool variants of some of the Pokemon. Then in Pokemon fashion, they added like different Pokemon that you could ride on or use to climb, use to glide. They even added a crafting system in here, where I know a lot of people complained about the graphics of this game, but overall this was a really good game. That's why this one definitely earns its spot in my top 10 list. Then next we're going with number 7 on my list. This one was on Super Nintendo, and they also remade it for the Switch. I mean, what good list is there without having Mario RPG on it? Mario RPG is pretty much the game that started all of the Paper Mario series and those Mario and Luigi RPG series. So this was a collab between Square and Nintendo to get this RPG made. You have notable characters like Geno and Mallow in here. Plus with it being Mario related, I mean, it's kind of a corny story, but it's not bad. This game does have turn-based combat, but it also has kind of an extra step to that, like when you're jumping on an enemy character with one of the special moves from Mario, you can keep pressing the button to keep jumping on them for a while. When you're doing attacks and you press buttons at the right time, then you'll actually do critical hits. So if you've never actually played Mario RPG, then definitely recommend giving it a try because it is a lot of fun. Plus, when your characters level up, you can have nice catchy music. Also, during the level up system, you have different stats that you can choose to improve on, and that can kind of help in customizing your team. And next we have number 6 on my list, which you could have probably seen this one coming. The original Golden Sun. So if you're a fan of games like Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy, any of those other pixel ones, then this is definitely a game you'd want to try. Now it does have a whole story that carries on afterwards, and that one that you saw in the honorable mention category. This one still has all the Ginny and the turn-based combat and everything. The story is excellent in these two Golden Sun games. This was originally out on the Game Boy Advance, but it is on Nintendo Switch Online now, so definitely worth giving it a shot if you have a chance to do that. And just like in Lost Age, there are just so many cool things you can do in combat. So if you're looking for an awesome series to play, definitely play the Golden Sun series. I know some games I'm covering a little more than other games. Really, I don't want to ruin any of the fun that you may have if you play these games yourself. And if you have already played them, then let me know where they rank on your list. Now, number 5 on my list, you can probably already guess what it's going to be. I'm sure you already expected it to be on here. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This game has one of the best stories out of any of the modern RPGs that I've played. I mean, the characters are awesome in it. Even the voice actors, the English voice actors, were all really great choices that they had in here. And the different characters in here, they're kind of a cross between Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 characters. Depending on which weapons you have on each of them, their play style will be like the other games. There's a lot of customization that go into each character. There are different heroes you can choose. Just in case you haven't played this, I'm not really going to go into the heroes and spoil anything for anyone. And then there's a special ability called Interlink. And with that, you have 2 of the characters are able to combine and turn into like this giant monster type thing that is just really strong, called the Ouroboros. In this game, you just have this huge open world that you can go through. Different battles, you can go and help out, items that you can just pick up from the ground. Plus there's DLC for this game. There's just so much you can do in it, and so much customization that you can have in your party. And then also, if you have played the other Xenoblade Chronicles games, there are areas that you will recognize from big events in those games. Now, you don't need to have played any of the other Xenoblade Chronicles games for this game to be fun, but definitely if you've played 1 and 2, then a lot of things will make a lot more sense in this game. Now, number 4 on my list, I'm sure is on almost everyone's top 10 list. If this isn't on your top 10 list, let me know in the comments. And also let me know why it's not on the top 10 list, because we have Chrono Trigger on the Super Nintendo. Now this game had just so much going for it. Like, the battle system is really great in it. There are different parts in the storyline that change depending on what you do early on in the game, especially when you find the second character here, because there are a few things that happen later on with like a court scene. And the music is great in this game, the story is great. Yeah, the fun battle right here against Gato. As you see, this does have turn-based combat in it. We defeated Gato. But there are multiple endings also in this game that also depend on what you do during the course of playing the game. So you can play through this game multiple times and have things be different each time that you play through it. So back during the Super Nintendo time, that was a new type of thing to have happen. But I think enough people know about Chrono Trigger, don't really need to go much more into what makes this such a great game. And number 3 is kind of a cult classic, and it may actually be number 1 on a lot of people's lists. We have Earthbound. In this game, you have Ness, who has little buddies with him, and you have to save the world. So, I mean, the storyline is kind of generic in here. It's just all the cool things on the side are what make this game so awesome. Like, you can buy a house if you want, you can catch a cold from a UFO, find out before it became a big thing about Bigfoot liking beef jerky, you have Bigfoot in this game really liked beef jerky. And how awesome is it you can even name your pet dog in the game? But there's so much to this game that it would have to have its own video just to kind of go over stuff, which, I mean, let me know in the comments if you're interested in a video going over Earthbound, or even possibly doing a playthrough of it. I just hope at some point Nintendo gives Earthbound the same care that it gave Mario RPG recently, because that would be pretty awesome. And number 2 on my list, this should come to no surprise to anyone really. I mean, the only possible surprise is people thinking this would be number 1 on my list, but we have Xenoblade Chronicles 2. My first video ever on YouTube was about Xenoblade Chronicles 2. That was back when I did videos on the Zors Gaming, but since then I've actually remade my original videos about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on this channel. So if you are a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 fan, then make sure you check out those videos, and also let me know in the comments what your pick of the team is. Normally for the tank I use Tora, but I've been testing out doing an evasion tank. It has been a little while since I played this game, but we'll need to get back and do another playthrough of New Game Plus mode. So anyone who has played through this game with the English voice acting would know that Rex's voice is kind of cringe at times, but ends up growing on you near the end. It's like a voice that doesn't fit the character in the beginning of the game, but after a while it's like, you know, that voice is actually decent. So in this one you have 5 different characters, but you have a whole bunch of customization you can do because the characters are the drivers, and each driver can be equipped with 3 different blades. So you have a huge variety of blades that can go on each driver, and the blades will determine if your character is like a tank, if they're DPS, if they're a healer. And each blade can be powered up, has its own little kind of talent tree opened up. Each character has their own talent tree, plus New Game Plus mode, there's a bonus talent tree. So there's an insane amount of customization you can do on top of your accessories and other types of items that you can equip onto your weapons or anything else. And then like the other Xenoblade games, this one is more of an active combat system. You can move your character around and attack with the different moves that you have. I didn't really show much of the combat system in the other Xenoblade ones because, I mean, this is the last Xenoblade one, had to save this best one for last. So there's so much stuff to the battle system, to everything in this, and it's not really explained that well. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 does the best about explaining everything. Supernova. And with all the characters and all the blades all having their own unique stories to them, and then you can gather loot. You can use some of it for getting higher friendship levels with the different blades. You can use some of it for making different foods and everything. The story in this is just so awesome, especially the twist that it has at the end. I mean, if you played Xenoblade Chronicles 1, you kind of see the twist coming. There is a little bit of a crossover in there at one part of that twist. But overall, this game, I would recommend anyone to try this one. It definitely earns its spot at the top of my top 10 list. It was very tough deciding between this one and the other one for the number 1 spot, but I think I have them selected correctly. Now for number 1 on my top 10 list, Final Fantasy III. If you watch any of the previous RPG chat videos, then you'll notice a common theme where I mention in multiples of them about Final Fantasy VI, which is 3 in the United States, being the best Final Fantasy game ever. Well, to me, just overall, this is the best RPG of all time. There's so much to this game, so many different characters in it. Even when you play it for so long and it feels like the game will be done, you're like not even halfway through the game. There's so much to explore in here and so many different things that you can do that it's just a very massive game to play. It has the traditional turn-based combat that the Pixel Final Fantasy games had, but that's kind of part of the charm of this. The soundtrack is great in this game even. It definitely earns its spot as #1 in best RPGs that I have played. You can even have a dancing Moogle. What's cooler than watching a Moogle dance? I'm sure people who are big fans of Final Fantasy VII will probably disagree about this one being the best Final Fantasy game, but it's okay, you can be wrong. So let me know in the comments what your list of the top 10 RPGs are. I know everyone has their own list, and it's kind of a fun thing to talk about every once in a while. And there are a lot of games that I'm sure will be on your list that won't be on mine just because of the fact that I only had Nintendo consoles until recently. I have played a lot of PC games, so things like Diablo 3, World of Warcraft, different RPGs like that, EVE Online, but those ones, at least to me, don't rank in my top 10. Now, if you'd like to see anything else about any of these games, then let me know in the comments, because I will gladly make videos showing how to do different things in any of these games, answering any questions, because I will play any of these games as many times as I can. I know there's more that could have been covered with each of these games, but I didn't want to get too much into them, just kind of wanted to quickly cover each of these games and why it's up there on my list. Well, I hope you enjoyed this, and make sure to subscribe, leave a thumbs up if you haven't yet. Want to thank you for watching. Have a nice day.